Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Lady Reaver's first Halloween special! This is kind of spur of the moment, so I actually planned 2 separate videos, but my sister suggested that I just combine the 2 videos together. The first part of this video, I'm going to go over my favorite Junji Ito stories, and then the second part is ghost stories that I actually know in real life. Alright, without further ado, let's get into it. Before I knew about Junji Ito, I never read horror manga. I knew the genre existed, but I never went out of my way to read it. But my curiosity got the best of me, and I discovered multiple stories by Junji sensei that sent dread and fear through me. These are my favorites. The dysfunctional relationship of a mother and her 2 daughters. Favoritism and jealousy descends into madness. The discovery of a curse that was the catalyst of it all. The youngest daughter, and the favorite out of the 2 daughters, got into a horrible car accident where half of her face was sheared off by a stop sign. But instead of leaving her horribly disfigured, it was discovered that her skin had multiple layers, each layer signifying a year of her life. A curse the father caused because he disturbed the grave of someone with the same ailment. Depressed with how her life turned out, the young daughter kept to her room. The tension between the youngest daughter and the mother sours to the point she yells at her mother, getting fed up with the suffocating love the mother gives her. The mother, heartbroken, her favorite daughter hating her, now obsesses at the idea of turning her daughter into her younger self, so that the youngest daughter would love her again. However, the mother didn't account for how the youngest daughter's baby body would stretch and grow over the years. What was left was a horrifying twig-like body with a baby's face. The mother's sanity snapped, and she believed that if she cuts off her own face, she would be young again and take care of her favorite child. However, only her daughters got the curse of multiple layers. Now the eldest and least favorite daughter spends her days feeding and taking care of her twisted younger sister and a horribly disfigured and mentally unstable mother. I can relate well to this story, especially the dysfunctional family part. This story has an element of body horror that really disturbed me and sent a shiver down my spine. Also, self-mutilation makes me queasy, so this definitely freaked me out. They animated this story, and it was okay. They could have made it like creepier with the baby noises. Maybe have it fade to black while the babies giggle echo eerily in the background. I don't know. A large, grotesque creature washed onto the shore, a sea monster that no scientist had ever seen before. They theorized that it lived so deep into the ocean no one knew of its existence. The scientists start to dissect the corpse. Its belly suddenly burst open to reveal living, pale animals. It took a moment for the scientists to realize they were people. And as one, the thousands of people started screaming and crawling for their lives. They were pale white, their hair wisps on their heads, their eyes empty of color and sanity. It was theorized that these people were swallowed whole by the sea creature after a terrible shipping accident 2 years prior. In order to survive, they lived as parasites inside the monster, eating the fish that entered its belly, soon causing the monster to starve to death. However, the monster's skin was translucent, as most deep-sea creatures are. What true horrors did these people see down in the deep, far from humanity's shores? I hate the ocean, and this story makes me scared of it even more. The idea of giant sea monsters that could eat us at any moment is terrifying to me. They animated this short story as well, and it sucked. They could have done so much to make this story scarier. It pissed me off, wasted potential. In the distant future, with flying cars and holograms, a scientist discovers a new planet and proudly names it after his beloved daughter Remina. But little does the world know that that planet isn't a planet, but a sentient creature that is hungry and headed straight for Earth. Cue crazy cultists, world-ending tongue action, and the terrifying realization that if anything like this happened in reality, there's no way to escape. This story is a wild ride, but what scares me is the existential horror this idea causes. At any moment, our planet could get destroyed by a black hole, a giant meteor, a hungry planet-sized monster. Existential horror is my favorite type of horror, because it actually scares me. It started when 2 bodies were found in a river sewn together with fishing wire. The main character is an introvert who finally makes the decision to go to a school reunion to see his old crush. But as the murders become more frequent, more elaborate, the whole country starts to panic and is advised to stay inside. A mysterious group calling themselves the Army of One are spreading their influence, their message seeping into radio broadcasts. This story is very fascinating to me. The idea that certain societies ostracizes introverts, but when mass murder on a large scale runs rampant throughout the country, everyone becomes introverted themselves, too scared to leave their homes. Not too far from what happened during the big vid. I also found out this short story was an extra chapter for Remina, but the Remina copy I bought didn't have it. Pissed. Grease. That was all she knew her whole life. Grease on the walls, grease thickening the air, grease slicking her skin, clothes, hair. It seemed like she was the only one who couldn't stand the grease. Her father and brother reveled in it. Her father cooking everything with grease, her brother drinking grease straight from the bottle. Maybe her mother was right to leave them. Maybe she should leave too. But where would she go? She was too young to be on her own. Maybe she would be trapped here forever, buried in grease. Oh god, this story is weird, but the gross panel with the brother teasing his sister with his nastiness is just nauseating. Just remembering the image twists my stomach, it's so gross. But the insinuation of cannibalism was interesting though. One Junji Ito story I want to read but haven't. During World War II, the Japanese government made a top secret weapon, a robot that used organic matter to keep running. But because the robots were deemed too dangerous, they were dumped into the deepest part of the ocean. However, though the robots were forgotten, they were never truly turned off. This story is a slow burn, but eventually it gets really horrifying and grotesque. I don't know how it ended, but I definitely plan to read it someday. Which of Junji Ito's stories are your favorite? Why did it scare you? Let me know down in the comments below. If you like this content, like, comment, and subscribe. I believe in ghosts. I believe in the supernatural, in the paranormal. What makes it even more scary is when you hear these things happening to people you know. These are actual experiences from people I've known for years. I've changed their names for anonymity's sake, but these events have altered their belief in ghosts and reality. Okay, as I said, I believe in ghosts, but I never experienced a ghost encounter myself. I was envious of others when they told me about their weird experiences. The more milder ones, of course, not the scary ones. But I did have a ghost experience. It just wasn't what I was expecting. So I was at my bro's ex's house. We'll call them Cass and Rena. So my bro Cass took me to Rena's house to hang out. Now, Rena has claimed she was a psychic and that her little trailer house was haunted. I personally never felt or experienced anything, but since I believed in that stuff, I took her word for it. She had told me stories of her supernatural experience that I'll tell you guys about later in the video. Anyways, Rena told me she was going to go change out the sheets to her bed and that she would be right back. After a while, I needed to go to the restroom, so I went to the bathroom door and tried to open it, but the door handle wouldn't turn. My first thought was that maybe I wasn't turning it hard enough, so I tried to put more force into the grip. It still wouldn't budge. Then I thought maybe Rena was using the restroom, so I knocked on the door. No answer. I even called out Rena's name. No answer. So I went back to turning the knob again, but it felt like it was locked. Confused, I went back to my seat. A while later, Rena came back, and I asked her if she was in the restroom and that she should have told me if she was going to use it. I needed it. But then she said she wasn't in the restroom. And there you have it, my first supernatural experience in a haunted trailer home. And it was lame as hell. But I guess I should count myself lucky that it wasn't as scary as the other stories I've heard. So I believe in psychics and tarot cards, that I even actually dabble in tarot cards myself. It brought me to a point where my view of spirituality and the afterlife have drastically changed from my Catholic upbringing. But I was still new and arrogant to the ways of tarot and the spiritual world, and I did something stupid. So I was hanging out with my friend, let's call her Greta. Greta also was into tarot cards as well, and we used them to help improve our lives. One day, a mutual friend hung out with us. We'll call him Omar. Omar was on leave from the military and was helping Greta move things around in her apartment. I got the brilliant idea to do a reading on Omar. I mean, you gotta get that practice in, you know? And it was going okay until Omar told us he was being followed by an evil spirit. During his deployment, he revealed that he found many caves with demonic statues surrounded by mountains of bones and skulls, and that something attached to him. He had been experiencing paranormal incidences and even went to a priest. By his account, apparently the priest tried to exorcise the evil spirits, and a week later, the priest committed self-deletion. But my dumb ass, being an amateur tarot reader and just found out about my psychic abilities, thought it was a brilliant idea to try and perform a half-assed amateur purification? I honestly can't. What was I trying to do? I was trying to cleanse his energy, I guess. You see, I was told by many psychics that I was spiritually protected. What I didn't take into account was the spiritual protection of others. So while I was trying to cleanse Omar's body, which was just me saging the area around him, for those who don't know what saging is, it's taking a bundle of sage, sometimes wrapped in paper, with the end lit so that the smoke is used to purify people or spaces. So while I was saging him, I accidentally left the tarot spread out on the couch. Yeah, that was a dumb move on my part. So after the saging, Omar said he didn't feel any different and we spent the day just hanging out. Things got crazy when my friend Greta, days later, told me the scary paranormal stuff happening in her apartment. She told me that after the tarot reading, she heard weird noises at night, like someone was moving around in her apartment. But the only people who lived there were Greta and her dog. Footsteps, doors opening and closing, random thumps. She even said she heard scratching, like someone was standing right outside her bedroom door. She was so scared she could barely sleep. After a while, she decided to throw away her tarot cards and anything pertaining to the supernatural, and the paranormal occurrences instantly stopped. After the incident, I formally apologized for my ignorance and the harm I caused, and she appreciated the apology. It's definitely something I'm embarrassed about. I was even debating if I should put this in the video or not, but I need to own up to my own mistakes. Now, do you want me to give you a reading? So, you remember Rena, my bro Cass's ex? She has a few more ghost stories that she shared with me. Her brother Quentin and his girlfriend Martha. So while Rena was home, she was passing by Quentin's room when she saw her brother and his girlfriend Martha cuddled in the bed together. It confused Rena because Quentin should be at work around this time, but figured he just called in. As she was moving on down the hall, she stopped dead in her tracks when a small detail suddenly hit her. Now, Rena and Quentin are both half black. They have dark skin, but the arm around Martha was white. Rena quickly went back to the room to double check what she saw, but it was just Martha in the room, just waking up from her nap. Rena confronted Martha about seeing a man with her on the bed. Martha said, "Was he wearing a red plaid shirt and jeans?" When Rena said yes, Martha continued, "Be glad you didn't see his face. Bad things happen to people who see his face." It turns out that this ghost had been haunting Martha ever since she was a kid. Yeah, if someone said that to me, I would have gotten the heck out of there. No, thank you. Another incident with Rena happened when she was at her computer desk, which is located in the middle of her home. She was talking with her dad from his spot on the reclining chair watching TV, which the chair was facing away from her, so his back was to her. Well, at some point, he told her he was going to go take a nap. She said okay, and went on with her task on the computer. After a while, she turned away and glanced at the TV, only to notice the shape of her dad's bald head peeking from over the chair, as if her dad was still sitting in his chair. And her blood ran cold because she could see her father, who left his bedroom door open, only a few feet away, curled up and asleep in his bed. And she knew she was seeing a doppelganger. It didn't do anything, but it was a strange experience of seeing double of your own dad. I think she said she ignores most of the weird stuff in her house, which, you know, if I was constantly faced with weird paranormal stuff for years, seems like a pretty fair reaction. Now, back in the day, my twin sister used to live with her boyfriend, now turned ex. We'll call him Millard. Turns out Millard's house was haunted. I can't remember if my sister told me she knew about it or had to find out the hard way. So the way that my sister told it Her and Millard got into a fight, and fed up, my sister went into their room to take a nap. As she was sleeping, something suddenly woke her up. But she knew that she was kind of not really awake, but she felt this strong pressure on her chest. Now, Millard has a bearded dragon. The heat lamp on the bearded dragon's tank was the only light source in the room. But as my sister laid on her back, she could see a man standing at the edge of the bed. And she said what surprised her was the amount of detail she can remember and see on this man. He was white with a red beard, blue eyes, wearing jeans and a particular type of jacket and a beanie-like hat. And what shocked her was just how real he looked. And she could distinctly remember every single detail. And she also could remember the feeling of being terrified, the pressure on her chest, and the sense of evil coming from that man. So when he started to slowly crawl across the bed, closer and closer to her, until he was right next to her, "Hey," he said. And with not knowing what else to do, my sister said, "Hey, back." She tried to move, but she found out quickly that her body was paralyzed. She started to panic, and the only thing she could do was to blink. And the moment she opened her eyes again, the man was gone, and she had woken up as if from a dream. Figuring that it was just a part of her imagination, my sister quickly tried to go back to sleep and forget the incident. However, it started all over again. She felt the pressure on her chest, and she saw the man just out of the corner of her eye laying next to her. She blinked her eyes one more time and woke up once again. Of course, she quickly got out of the bed and tried to convince herself it was just a nightmare. Nothing to be scared of. It was just a nightmare. She went out into the living room where her boyfriend was, and she decided that they should go get something to eat, just to shake off the weird feeling of dread she had on her. As they were driving down the road, she turned to Millard and she asked, "Have you ever had a nightmare with a man?" And before she could even say anything else, Millard said, "You mean a man in a hat?" My sister's stomach dropped. I don't know what she was expecting him to say, but it definitely wasn't that. She started to shake and her hands started to get clammy. How did you know?" And he said, one night when it was just him in the bed, he turned over and he just saw the shadow of someone in a hat laying right next to him. Now, me and my sister have been both paranormal enthusiasts for most of our lives, and my sister and I have heard of paralysis demons. She said what she experienced was not what she heard what sleep paralysis was, like with shadow people or distinct figures. So what do you guys think? Do you think it's an actual ghost? Do you think it was just a figment of her imagination, just a bad nightmare? Was it just sleep paralysis? I saved the best and scariest for last. My twin sister keeps interesting company, and one of her friends has had the most frightening accounts I've ever heard in person before. The friend, we'll call her Ileana. Ileana used to be a Satanist. She worshipped the devil. I can't remember if she did animal sacrifices or not, but I know she used tarot cards to commune with spirits. Now, I feel the need to defend tarot cards. Tarot cards are just a divination tool. They aren't inherently evil in itself. It's what you use the tool for. It's always about intent. Of course, communing with evil spirits is a bad thing, but she was a hurt and confused girl who found solace in the dark arts. And of course, when you go looking for evil, it finds you. She had woken up with scratches and bruises all over her body before, but one night was particularly scary. She was partially awake when she felt something slide up the side of her leg. When she realized something was touching her leg, she sat up quickly. There was a pause before something gripped her ankle and threw her whole body across the room, her back hitting the wall. She was so scared she instantly started praying, and nothing further happened. Afterwards, she found God and converted to Christianity. She firsthand experienced evil in her home, and it changed her whole life view. I don't envy her experience. I never want to be that close to evil. What did you guys think of the stories? Did you think they were BS? Do you think they actually happened? Have you ever experienced any paranormal happenings? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this content, like, comment, and subscribe. I'm gonna go read some yaoi. I hope you guys have a spooky Halloween, and good night.